Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. This is the Great and Powerful Zilla, and today I'm going to be talking about the HMS Implacable. This ship I achieved by spending my free experience. I wasn't able to get enough florins to make it happen, so I used free XP to get this and the Audacious. So today I'll be talking about the Implacable, and later on, and when I make another video, I'll talk about the Audacious. Hopefully I'll have a better game than I had in this thing today. But it's a Tier 8 carrier. So let's talk a little bit about the history of the ship. As I normally do, this ship was actually completed in August of 1944. It spent the bulk of the remainder of that year attacking German targets in Norway. And in 1945, it was transferred to the Pacific Fleet and it attacked Truk. Its heavily armored flight deck made it almost impervious to kamikaze attack. Although, you know, kamikaze hits your ship, it's going to do some damage, but it mitigated a lot of that damage. After the war, it transported POWs around the Pacific, our POWs, repatriated POWs, to medical facilities and various nations like New Zealand, Australia, United States, etc. Okay, and it joined the training fleet and the home fleet in 1950, and it was actually used as a trainer for landing. You know, training pilots to land on the ship. And in 1954, it was decommissioned, and in 1955, it was scrapped. So less than 10 years after it was finished, it was on the scrap heap. It's pretty sad. For a multi-million-dollar investment, it's pretty sad that it ended up that way. It is an impressive looking ship. It does have nice perma-camouflage, which you can get through the Fly Strike Wind missions. And, you know, I like it. I like it a lot. The problem is it's a Tier 8 carrier. And if you play a Tier 8 carrier, you know as well as I do what kind of matches you're going to be getting into. So, let's take a look at her planes. She comes with a Supermarine Spitfire. They call it the Seafire because it was modified for oceanic use. However, the Seafire had a flaw in that it still retained the narrow track undercarriage that the Spitfire had. And it didn't quite work out very well for the Seafire at the end of the day. However, it did give the British Navy an aircraft capable of taking on Japanese Zeros and whatnot that were flying around at that time. For attack aircraft, it has torpedo bombers and dive bombers as the Ferry Spearfish. The Ferry Spearfish, oh, I can talk today. The Sea Spearfish was ugly, fat, and slow, but it was extremely versatile and could carry a humongous load. Again, that was a feature of all the ferry aircraft during World War II. They were extremely capable in their capacity to carry a load. All right, so you get the Spearfish. Now, at some point during this aircraft carrier's life, it also carried TBF Avengers. It carried de Havilland Sea Hornets, but you know, it wasn't quite good enough to carry the jets, and that's one of the reasons why they decommissioned it rather than upgraded it. Okay, so that is the Implacable. We're going to take her into a game and we're going to see what she can do. But before we do that, let me talk a little bit about the modules I have and the upgrades I've put on the ship. I only have a little 4-point captain, which, as you can see from her picture, will probably never need a flotation device if the ship ever sinks. But I have put air goose modification 1 on, damage control system 1. I increased the attack time for the torpedo bombers, mainly because they kind of need it. And you'll find with British carriers they have 2 unique attack abilities that other aircraft carriers don't have. I'll explain that when we get into the game. I put extra health on the bombers, not the torpedo planes, the bombers, because that's where your bread and butter is. And I put extra health on all the planes. So anytime you can grab health, you know, throw it on there. As far as captain skills goes, she's only a 4-point captain. But I will go straight down this line. I will pick up Survivability Expert to boost the health of my aircraft. I will pick up improved engines. I will pick up, the improved engine boost. And then, even though she's British and she has a higher fire chance, I might even still go with Demolition Expert. Or I could go with Superintendent and give her extra consumables, although she doesn't really need it as an aircraft carrier. All right. So, we'll take her into a game. Now, I will tell you, this game sucks. It is a Tier 10 match. As a Tier 8 carrier, you get thrown into Tier 10 matches a lot, and this is something Wargaming really needs to address. How? I don't know. I don't have the answers. If I did, I'd be a freaking billionaire, right? Okay? But I don't. I don't have the right answer. Everybody's got their own ideas. You're going to see the same complaints that have been going on since the first day this released. Even though it was in the test server, and those people who are whining could have tested it and found out all about it and read the articles and watched the videos. They didn't do that, so they're still complaining. Well, carriers have unlimited planes. Watch this game and see if I don't need unlimited planes. Tier 10 match, And some people argue they need the odd tier carriers. Well, okay, you get the odd tier carriers. How's that help you? You're in a Tier 8 carrier. You're in a Tier 10 match. Having a Tier 9 or Tier 7 isn't going to help you. You're in a Tier 8 carrier. That's what you got. And those of you who play carriers know what I'm talking about. So this game, you're going to see my lag at large, and you're going to see what happens to Tier 8 planes, and in my case, Tier 6 planes, because I don't have the bombers at Tier 8 yet. Okay? What happens to these planes when they get into a match? It's Tier 10. Okay? We'll talk to you then. Okay, we get into a battle. First thing I do when I get into battle, I look at the team list, and I'm looking at this thing and contemplating suicide or, just uninstalling the game. Because if you look at the other side, you see there's a midway. And if there's a midway, there's other Tier 10 ships. So I'm looking at their cruisers, and I'm looking at the Minotaur, and I'm looking at the Wooster, and I'm looking at, the Minotaur, and I'm looking at other ships, and I'm like, yeah, this is going to be ugly. The movie Good, Bad, and the Ugly, this one falls into the bad and the ugly category. I really didn't do very well in this game at all, and I wasn't able to. But first thing I do is I bring up the Seafires, and you can see they look very nice. This is a fighter, much like the P-51, that looks like it has a purpose. Like it was purpose built for that task. I just think it's one of the most beautiful aircraft in World War II. And it's just elegant, would be the word to describe it. I'm going to bring these rocket planes out there. Now, the thing about the British is their rockets do damage, but they carry a ton of them. They carry a whole bunch of rockets. So as I'm passing through this cap, what I'm going to do, I see their torpedo bombers. I'm just going to drop fighters here, make them detour around. He does the same thing. Okay? It's a standard tactic that carriers use in these battles. And I see in front of me there's a Grosse Kurfürst. That thing has anti-aircraft up to yin-yang. And right next to it is, what is that? The Missouri, which also has anti-aircraft. And you see they bring up their defensive fighters, and then there's a Wild Zao over there that appeared. And I'm going to make an attack run, and I'm going to fire my rockets, and my lag takes them away, and they're gone. Zip! Gone. And if you play a Tier 8 carrier, ladies and gentlemen, this is what you're going to run into time and again. So I bring up the Spearfish. And I'm going to head back to the same direction. I'm a glutton for punishment. I'm getting some spots. I've shot down some airplanes. That's about all I can do. Against this type of anti-aircraft fire as a Tier 8 carrier, you are limited. But you got to try. God bless you, you got to try. You got to do something. You help contribute to the battle in some way. Make them dodge something. Do something. I've had people comment, why would you do that to, just throw your planes away against this? I got to do something. I'm not one of these people that are like, well, I'm not flying my planes out there. And you've seen carrier players like this. I'm not bringing my planes out there. They're all going to get shot down. Well, what good are you? At least I'm spotting something. At least I'm doing something. I've got to try to do something, you know? I mean, shoot, on a battleship, you fire your rounds. A lot of them don't hit. That doesn't mean you don't shoot because you're not going to hit, right? So, one of the features of the British torpedo bombers, as you saw right there, is the reticle comes down to a point. Instead of a fan, like if you put your two fingers up in the air and you see a V, turn it around and face you. It starts out wide and it narrows down to a point. That makes the torpedoes extremely accurate if you're able to aim them right. And as you saw right there, I wasn't, and my planes just disappeared. I must be on the Bermuda Triangle map because my planes just keep disappearing, right? Okay, so I bring up my tier 6, that's right, 6 Barracudas, and I'm going to take them over to the other side. Screw that. I see there's some tier 8 ships over there. There's a Tirpitz, and there's a Buffalo. Well, I think that's a tier 9. I have a better chance against them than I do against, that mob over there. So I'm flying over there, and then suddenly I see there's a Worcester. And throw up your hands. Because you're not going to... Worcester in North Carolina. Oh, joy. Double the fun. Right? So, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to try to do something. Not much I can do. Because I know what's coming. And you can try to avoid the flak, and you can talk about flak all you want to. It doesn't matter. When you're on your attack run and your reticle goes green on your British bombers, they become more sturdy. So I bring it down, and my lag fails me, and they drop behind it. But here's the thing. The British dive bombers, this is the other unique feature. They don't dive. They carpet bomb. And of course, all those planes are gone. So, that's 3 squadrons gone for no damage. And you're going to see this pattern continue throughout the game. You can say I suck if you want to. In this game, I did. Okay? But in a Tier 8 carrier, I don't care if it's the Enterprise or the Shikaku or the Lexington or even the Graf Spee. Or Graf Zeppelin, I'm sorry. I said there. Misspoke. If you're in a Tier 10 game, even if there's only 1 to 3 Tier 10s on the enemy team, all it takes is one to deny you access to that area successfully. And you've got to do something, at least in my opinion, you have to do something. You have to try. You can't succeed if you don't try, right? You may fail, but you cannot do anything if you don't try. So I'm bringing out my spearfish again, and I'm going out to this side. Now, this time I know that Worcester's there behind the island, and I know that North Carolina is straight ahead of me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to veer off and get out of his anti-aircraft range a little bit. But you can see my planes are turning yellow, and as they turn yellow, they start to turn red. So my heel for my planes is on cooldown. It's got 2, 1, and then 0, and I'm going to bring up that heel again. And I'm going to turn into the Worcester. Now, my objective here is not to hit the Worcester or sink it, or to hit the North Carolina and sink it. My objective is to drive them out of the area. Okay? That's my objective. So I drop down. You see how it narrows to the V? All right, and I do that. So I come out of that, and my planes are getting torn up. It's a Worcester and a North Carolina together. So what happens there is sometimes, it doesn't happen often, but sometimes when you have planes that are in the act of launching their attack and they all get shot down, it will auto-launch the same planes from your aircraft carrier, regardless of how many you have on the deck. And that's what happened there. So all I did was drop that torp in empty water, return to the carrier to bring up my interface again. It's a glitch. It's been in the game since the TST. It was more pronounced in the TST than the PTR, but it's still there. It still exists. So I bring up my Tier 6 bombers, and I'm going out here again. And I'm rapidly getting deplaned. I'm running out of planes, and that's to be expected in a tier 10 game. Not blaming everything on the tier 10 game. My lag has something to do with it. Certainly I could have done more damage had my lag not been, you know, off the chain, so to speak. Okay. But I'm zipping along. I like the Barracuda. It's a good plane for tier 6, but it really is a futility to bring it into a tier 8 or tier 10 game. And I don't have a choice. I gotta research this stuff. Yeah, I could free XP them, but I don't like to spend my free XP like that. I like to build it up and get it the honest way. And what I did there is I switched to the map. I noticed that our flank has been abandoned, and I'm just going to move on out of the way because there's no sense in giving anybody an easy shot at me. I'm not an easy kill, but there's no sense in giving them easy access to shoot at me and farm damage. So we still have that situation down there with those two ships sticking together and these two ships sticking together. So the enemy team is doing the right stuff. They're staying together. But what's not together is that lone Zao. Now the Zao has an anti-aircraft rating of 64, and I believe, and if I'm wrong, please correct me in the comments, that the Zao also has access to a defensive fighter cooldown. So I'm kind of bending it toward the Zao, but the Zao's getting a little too close to their aircraft carrier, and that's a midway. And if I go anywhere near that midway, my planes are just going to disappear. So I decide to go after this battleship. However, as I crest the hill, a wild Yamato appears along with the Kurfürst and the Missouri, and you can well predict what happens to my planes here. I'm in an attack run. I really don't have any ability to maneuver away, and I drop some bombs. Nothing happens. The planes are shot down as the bombs float slowly down into the ships. So, not having much of another choice, I'm going to bring up the rocket planes. As you can see, my dive bombers and my torpedo planes have been denuded, and they really don't have enough to make any difference, and this is going to continue throughout the rest of this game. And the Kurfürst is sailing straight ahead. Now, our midways rocket planes are doing well, okay? And he's able to take a little bit more punishment than I do. But here I'm coming in, and I'm going to make a rocket run on this Kurfürst. I'm actually going to be able to attack. So I fire, and my lag brings him up a little bit short, you know. It's because it's not going to hit where I aim. It's going to hit off just because of the lag. And you can see, boom, 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 done. So we'll bring them up again. We'll bring up these spearfish and see if I can do something with that. Now, I don't believe this is a full squadron. I believe I'm short. Yeah, this is where I really start to run short on planes. And the Kurfürst has stuck himself up on an island, which makes him a tasty little target for me. Now, odds are I'm probably going to lose these planes anyway. The Yamato has an anti-aircraft rating of 55. The Kurfürst has, I think, over 70. The Missouri also has a high anti-aircraft rating over that. So, as soon as I see flak, I drop down into my attack approach. This gives my planes a little bit more of a chance. And I'm going to aim, and I'm going to fire and lose the planes. But they dropped one torpedo, and I follow it all the way in because I want to see where I'm aiming and if it's off and what the lag is and all that good stuff. And it's firing straight and true, goes straight for the middle of the battleship, and I kill steel like I boss. So yay, I've done all of 1,000+ damage and sank a battleship. Cheap as heck, but I'll take it. Thank you. It's something, right? All right, so what this serves to do is tick off the enemy team. Okay? And they start going after carriers. They're looking for carriers, all right? Right now we're pretty even. It's not going to stay that way. I'll tell you that right now. So I'm going after the Yamato with these rocket planes. And I'm going to see if I can do something. And lo and behold, fighters are dropped. There's the defensive fighters, and I'm going after the Yamato, and we're going to drop into our pattern. Again, when you drop into a pattern, your planes gain a little bit more health, a little bit more armor. And I'm going to fire, and I actually hit because I aimed off. With my type of lag, if you have the similar situation with satellite internet, and you have the lag, you have to aim off, and you have to guesstimate where it's going to hit. But if you look at the upper left-hand corner of my screen, you will see the lag go up and down and up and down and up and down. And it only really does this when I'm playing aircraft carriers and flying the airplanes. When I'm playing battleships or something like that, the lag's still there, but it doesn't affect it the way it does with the airplanes. And the Yamato's gone, so the only thing left is that Missouri, which is a death trap for my airplanes. And I've got these Tier 6 bombers going up against a Tier 8 battleship. And this guy probably made 1 billion credits in this game, I'm guessing. Okay? Because you get a lot of credits for shooting down planes. And he did shoot down a good portion of mine. So, coming in, not exactly the best approach. What I should have done here is veer off to the right, come back around. But there's no guarantee he wouldn't have turned into that. Because this is a smart player. He's turning into broadside, so he's broadside to my planes. I'm going to drop, and you see the bombs float down there, and one hit. I'll take it. At this point, I'm not going to be picky. And this is a good angle. I'm coming in. I'm going to come right across his bow, and he gets nailed by torpedoes from somebody. And I drop, and I actually hit again. All right? And that's a great approach. If you guys ever have to come across a battleship like that, always come across their nose like that at an angle. You know, it's not always going to be the perfect run bow to stern. You're going to have to improvise, adapt, and overcome, so to speak. Okay? So I bring up these torpedo bombers, again, less than a full squadron. And I'm hoping I'll be able to do something with that Missouri, but he's probably going to die before I get there. And he does. So, we have to go hunting. We're hunting for a Henri, and we're hunting for a Zao. Alright, and the Zao has a 64 anti-aircraft rating, and the Henri, I believe, has a 70-something rating. So, Tier 10 ships, Tier 8 carrier, Tier 8 planes, and I only have 2 of them. What kind of result am I going to get here? Alright, well, enemy aircraft has spotted my aircraft carrier. And if any ship worth its salt is going to take a shot at an aircraft carrier if they get a chance. However, these guys don't, which shows they're very well disciplined and very, very smart players. They're going to engage ships that are a direct threat to them immediately. They're not going to address me. But one of the things you can do on a British carrier is, because that comes to a point, you can actually go for the bow of a ship. Now, my aircraft got shot down and I wasn't able to launch, but that's because I had so few aircraft left. Okay? So I've been basically deplaned. If you look at my aircraft carrier, you will see that I have very few fighters, 1 torpedo bomber, and they're very slowly recovering, very slowly getting back up there. They just, at Tier 8, you get your planes ripped out of the sky, guys. That's just the way it is. And, you know, I don't understand the complaints about aircraft carriers being OP and this, and that, and the other. You're Tier 10, you got a chance. At Tier 8, you're cannon fodder. But, again, what else can you do? You got to try. You got to get in there. You got to mix it up. You got to get stuck in. You can't just sit on the sideline. The smart play, if I had held back at the beginning of the match, I probably would have planes right now to throw at these enemy cruisers that are somewhat vulnerable. But I'm not one of those carriers that you guys complain about all the time. It sits in the back and doesn't do anything. I'm going to try and participate. Now here I get my fighters are knocked out of the sky. And if you look at my inventory, I've got 1 fighter, I've got I think it's 3, I can't really see, 3 torpedo bombers and 3 dive bombers. So yeah, we're not doing real well. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off here because they are taking shots at my aircraft carrier. that Zhao is going to take his shots. And these are tier 6s again. I'm going to bring them up. Rinse and repeat. That Henri is just barely hanging in there. I'm going to try and see if I can't get a fire started or something. I don't think my bombs would kill him in one run. They might. But if I can make him dodge, if I can make him go broadside, if I can make him do something, you know, because these guys have been pretty good at mitigating the effect of aircraft. And here the flak's coming up again. I'm going to drop down. Dropping bombs. They're going to miss. They're going to go aft. And that's not wargaming. That's my lag. You know. And it's really hard to adjust for it. But I do my best. And the Henri is gone. And we have a Zhao and an aircraft carrier against our Henri, which has done a fantastic job. And our 2 aircraft carriers. The Midway's done well. I have sucked. As much a function of my lag as it is the tier. And I'm going to get within knife fighting range of this guy. I'm going to launch those torps. They're so slow, they're going to pass behind him. But what it does, it makes him turn. And when he turns broadside to the Henri. And my planes are gone, and he takes shots at me. As you can see, he's not going to pass up that opportunity. Okay? So he turned and he launched torpedoes, and then when he turned again to avoid my torpedoes, he turned broadside to the Henri. Okay? So, bring up dive bombers again, and we're going to go back after the Zhao. And again, fighters are still being dropped, but at this juncture, we've won the game. If you look at the score, we're at 950 plus, and they're at 700. There's really not much of a chance for him to catch up unless they sink everybody. Okay? And I'm as fast as the Zhao in the Implacable. So I can't outrun his guns, but I can outmaneuver him. I can get around islands and things like that. Let's look at the score. I'm down toward the bottom, which is where I belong. I sank 1 ship. That was a kill steal. Our Midway did very well. And their aircraft carrier also did well. But if you look at the number of aircraft that you got shot down on both sides, you poor tier 8 carriers, I don't care what you're running at tier 8, you're going to lose out. I made 15,000 in that win, and that's probably only because I kill stole like a boss. I lost 71 planes in that match. It was very brutal. But that, ladies and gentlemen, is the state of tier 8 aircraft carrier play, and that is the Implacable. Just like all my other videos, I bring it to you good, bad, or ugly. Okay? I'm not going to candy coat anything for you. Until next time, you guys be good to each other and have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye.